The Marvel Rivals closed alpha playtest has come to an end, and I've got a lot of thoughts about my experience. It's mostly positive, however I'd like to share my full impressions so far, in addition to some aspects that I feel could be improved for the final release. What up, it's your boy Geronimo here, and I just want to thank you for jumping in and watching this video. I know it took a bit of time to come out, but I want to get my full thoughts kind of jotted down here so I can give you a nice listening experience as I kind of yap on about my experience with Marvel Rivals thus far. So first I'd like to go into kind of just, like general vibes of the game as far as like, how is the game on its own as a product right now? So yes, I will say up front, it is very, very similar to Overwatch. As far as like, it's 6v6 team-based game. You have your three classes. Your attackers are called duelists, your tanks are called vanguards, and your support class are called strategists. And each character so far, they have a distinct role to play. And yeah, they all, so far, all 19 characters that were in the closed alpha definitely had a distinct role that you could figure out, put enough effort into them. Some were definitely easier to succeed with more than others. We'll get to that in a bit though. The alpha also had two modes in it. It had push the payload. They called it I think it was, what was it? They had two versions of it. They had one in the Asgard map, which is based off Thor, and one on the 2099 futuristic city map. I think it was either Tokyo or like a New York City, but it's got like a mishmash of both aesthetics put together. But yeah, and then you also have like a domination mode where you have to capture a zone, and it's best 2 out of 3. After each round, you go to another part of the map, and you control that part, and you go from there. So yeah, map design so far, I don't have any really strong for or against things about it. I did like the Asgard ones a bit more than the 2099 Tokyo Future City one, just because, well, frankly, I got it more when playing, and I had most of my successful matches on that map. So, but both maps they're pretty solid. I wouldn't really say they're bad maps. One part in the Asgard map, like when you start and you're attacking, as in you're trying to push the payload, that's a crazy choke point. As soon as that door opens, they're just all on your behind right there. But there's a way to go on the top left and kind of slip out. But I think as the game comes out and get more used to how it works, I think it'll become a bit easier to manage. But those are only 2 maps in it so far. I think the art style is amazing. This game is a visually striking game. Like it has its own kind of a slightly comic bookish, cartoonish style, but it does give certain characters, like a more futuristic aesthetic or more armor and things like that. But one thing I really like about this, I think this is an Unreal Engine 5 game. I'm pretty sure it is. But one thing I really do like about the look of the game is a lot of the characters' hair, like how the hair kind of, especially for like the female characters, for the longer hair, like Storm or Magic or anyone like that, their hair just looks really good in the lighting and it flows well. It's just a good visual aesthetic. They put in the work, and I really appreciate it, and it does look really nice. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Paladins as well as Overwatch visually. Well, parts of the Asgard map do. The city map, not like either of those, because that's not even fantasy. That's more futuristic sci-fi-esque. But yeah. And then I guess for competitive viability, it's still very early. I mean, you can tell that they are going to push this game as a competitive game. I believe it's going to have its own backing as like esports, especially with Marvel's full backing behind it as well. It's being developed by NetEase Games. Shout out to NetEase. Thank you for sending the code to me as well, by the way. But yeah, so competitive viability though, I would say I believe it has a good start. I do think they need to really hammer down and balance a lot of these characters that were in this build before the final release, so we can get a better idea of how things can shake out and how matches can go. The match flow overall, despite most characters having kind of like a slower walk, it's third person instead of first person. So if you've kind of gotten used to, you know, coming from your spawn, going back to objective or where your nearest teammates are, it may feel a bit slower at first, but as you're playing in the game, you get kind of used to the flow, and matches can go pretty quick. Like, I think you can probably get in and out of full matches no more than 10 minutes, I think. Maybe 15 if it goes into overtime and both teams are really solid, really good, and have really great synergy. But I believe it's a bit early to really go deep into competitive viability, so I think I'm gonna just keep it there. And I didn't really play ranked at all during the closed alpha. I really just wanted to play for fun and learn as many characters, and you know, of course, provide, you know, gameplay of each one here, which, you know, I have a playlist that you should maybe see a title card pop up for on YouTube, but they'll also be featured at the end of the video. But yes, so that's kind of the general vibes of the game. I do enjoy it. I think it has a place in the hero shooter market right now. I know it's, you know, the popularity is waning a little bit as far as like brand new ones constantly being made, and, you know, other series, you know, not quite as popular as they once were. But overall, I think they have a good thing going here. I believe if they get to balancing the characters properly, I think we have a winner for sure. Okay, so I'd like to talk about the characters. Again, as I mentioned, I played as every single person at least 2-3 rounds. I'm gonna just kind of start going down the list of how the characters are shown in the select screen. So I'm gonna start with Bruce Banner and Hulk. He's a tank in this game, or a vanguard. He's kind of interesting. So he starts out in Bruce Banner form. So he's kind of like a diva character from Overwatch, where you level him up. Well, not so much as level up, but his ultimate as Bruce Banner is he turns into what they call Hero Hulk, which is kind of like the middle Hulk. You know, he has some form of intelligence. He can make full sentences and whatnot. But yeah, he's pretty much a brawler. He can cast out these gamma shields, and if there are any teammates near him, they also get shields. But his game plan is basically, when you're Bruce Banner, you have a little pistol and a little gamma grenade. You can toss enemies and they'll kind of pop up, and you can get a few more shots on them. You're not really supposed to get kills with Bruce Banner. You're supposed to get kills with Hulk. But once you turn into Hulk, he can charge his jump, and he can leap in the air. If there's a character that's flying, they'll knock him out of the air, which is pretty cool. It happened to me once or twice from a good Hulk, but when I played him, I didn't really get a chance to do that so much. But overall, his character, and this will be a theme as we talk about, as I talk about a lot of the melee-based characters in this build of Marvel Rivals. But his regular normal attacks just don't have enough damage to them. Like, you can get in, and if you do some of his other abilities, like he has an ability where he'll kind of shoot like this mid-ranged gamma projectile that will kind of stun characters in place. You can wail on them a little bit more there, just punch. But yeah, like, he does have a good amount of health as a vanguard, but I feel he just needs a bit more damage output on his normal attacks. But other than that, maybe a quicker charge in this jump, which is the spacebar for keyboard and mouse. I think you should have a shorter time to fully charge it to where you can leap where you want to go, so you can get quicker, you can get back in the fight quicker, and, you know, be the tank for your team. So next, the Punisher. The Punisher, he's top three in this build, and I'm not sure if he's 3 or 2. He might be top 1, but we'll get to it as we kind of talk more. So he's pretty grounded. He's pretty normal. If you're familiar with Punisher and Frank Castle, he has no special abilities. He's just a guy who is drunk on vengeance, and he uses he uses a bunch of assault rifles. He also uses a shotgun, and he can like create a zip line and fire himself from one end to the map to the other. It can't go the whole span of a map, but he can go from a wall, and he'll automatically attach to it, and he'll jump up. If you're familiar with Apex Legends and Pathfinder, imagine if his ult was one of his regular moves. But yeah, he's really strong. I think he's a little bit too strong. I'm not sure how you would balance him overall. Like, I don't know if you should just nerf his shotgun, or if you should, just reduce how much damage his regular assault rifle weapon is. I'm not sure. I really am not sure, but I think he does need to be toned down a tad bit so he just doesn't, dominate as far as a lot of the attackers are concerned. Storm is actually one of my favorites. I'm sure as y'all have probably seen, I put up a couple of videos for her. I even got MVP with her, which was really dope. But yeah, Storm is more like, she's one of the few characters, or actually I think she's the only character in this build that can fly indefinitely. Of the 17 characters in this build, I believe there was about 9 or 10 that can fly or has the capability to fly around the map. So there's a lot of flying characters. But yeah, Storm, I honestly really liked her because she kind of has a thing where she deals with 2 elements. She deals with wind element, which creates this ring below her, because on the ground, if you fly up higher in the air, that ring gets a bit smaller, so there's less of a space for your teammates to take advantage of it. But when anyone's in the wind element ring that she casts as like her passive, you get a movement buff. So you just move around faster by default. You can switch to her thunder element, which is blue, and that will give everyone a damage buff. And yeah, when you're doing that, that also changes which element she fires. Now this game, I don't believe it really follows like any elemental damage over time type things for the most part. So there's not really a distinct difference between wind and thunder as far as just using left click and attacking enemies. One thing you can do with her though is when you switch to that element and you press E, if you're on the thunder element, she'll buff herself, and her regular attacks do much more damage. Well, it does a little more damage. I'm not gonna say it's a ton, but it does more damage. It's noticeable. And then wind, when she powers herself up with wind element, she fires her projectiles a bit quicker. And then her ultimate is like she can aim at a reticle on the ground and she leaps in the air and then she lands and does like a big cyclone, and it just does so much area over time damage. It's crazy. She's pretty good. I think she's kind of underrated. I think she slept on just because other characters in the duelist class just have quicker time to kill, and they're a bit quicker and things like that. But yeah, she'll definitely be someone I use a lot in the full game, and really just other betas or whichever that come out. She's more like I will call her, she's an attacker but a bit more of a support attacker hybrid, where you're not really supposed to be up close and personal with her. She's best as like a backliner. So I think a really good Storm on the team can, especially when you're controlling an objective, she can really scope out where enemies are coming from just from flying in the air. So I think if you have someone on your team that's good at comms or has good awareness overall, I think she'll shine really brightly. So Storm is dope. Oh, and her right click, my bad. Her right click is she just shoots like one single strong lightning bolt to an enemy, and that is really a good way to get your kills. Yeah, so Loki is one of the support characters and probably one of the more technical ones, at least of the ones in this build. He's great. All the support characters are great. Or duelist slash I'm sorry, not duelist. Getting my words tangled here. Strategist or support. All the strategists in this build are great. There's only 4 so far, but they're all great. He's really all about, as you would imagine, trickery, mischief, deception in some aspects, where he can create up to 2 other doppelgangers. That's him, and wherever you aim and shoot, whether it's healing or attacking, they'll also aim at that area. And if you aim your mouse and press a key, you can actually swap places with it. So yeah, you can kind of move around and kind of hold down points and provide good support. And his ultimate is wild. Basically, his ultimate will copy any character, whether they're an ally or an enemy, and you'll transform into them, and you'll get their full ult. So it can be really devastating depending on your team composition for sure. But yeah, Loki's great. Don't really have much else to say about him. Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is a Vanguard, aka tank, in this, and he was probably I'd say he's tied as best tank next to Groot, which we'll talk about a bit later as well. But Doctor Strange is all about using his shield to kind of just block a lot of, all types of attacks. His general attack is more of a burst fire. He shoots like these magical dagger knife type things. And then he can also float and use his shield within the air as well. But he doesn't like fly permanently. He's more so grounded, and you have to press, I think, shift to initiate his flying. And his ult basically will push all enemies outside of their physical body, and you can do more damage to them while they're like that. I believe that's how it works. But one of his other crazy abilities are, and probably the one that most people know about that played the closed alpha, is that he can create a portal, and the portal tanks the frame rate. I'm sure they're gonna get that ironed out and polished by the final release, but he can put out a portal and put it anywhere on the map. Like, he can just set one and set the other anywhere, and it can make for some really funny moments where, right before a team starts and leaves out of their door from their spawn area, and if you place a portal on like the edge of the map, they can jump through that portal and not realize it and just jump to their death. So it's a very strong ability, probably just one of the strongest moves any characters have so far. But the well, not really a downside, but the only way to kind of make it to where you can't just abuse it a lot is that it has a full 2-minute cooldown. Like, as soon as you use it, you start with 120 seconds and it counts down on your HUD, which is, I've never seen a game do that, honestly. So that's pretty wild to have such a long cooldown. But yeah, it's such a strong ability. So I think it's fine with that. So Mantis is also a support character. She's probably one of the quicker ones. Like, she just has really good ground movement in general. She's all about kind of staying in the fray with your team. She can either throw these kind of grass seed things at your teammates and either buff their damage, or you can give them healing over time. And she's also really good for that as well. She can also buff herself with her little seeds that she has. She only has up to 5 at a time, and as you use one, there's a slight cooldown where it recharges. But I believe you can get them back as well when just fighting in the game as well. But she's really easy to use. I'd say she's good for folks. I don't want to say she's like Mercy from Overwatch, because she can't fly at all. She's not a flyer character in this game, but like, she's really good at just being there around your team and healing. And so I think it's good for those that want a more laid back support character role, and just still be there and help the team win. But yeah, she's solid. As I said, for other support characters, nothing else I'd really say she needs to be changed. Rocket. Now, Rocket is support, but he has good DPS because he's like a little Gatling gun he kind of carries around. Typical Rocket Raccoon type behavior, right? Like, that's just what he does. Shout out to the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. But yeah, he's really good for, like, he can put down a little mechanism where if you or anyone on your team dies, they'll just spawn there instead of going all the way back to spawn, like the main spawn, having to walk back to the objective. So that is right there is a great asset on any team. He can also climb up walls and scale them and jump up and fire. He can also he also has a thing where he can his ult basically throws down like a floating thing, and it puts like this tractor beam on any teammate in the vicinity, and it gives everyone a damage buff. So it's just really good for that final push. So Rocket was probably my favorite strategist in the closed alpha, so I'll definitely use him more in the final game. And other cool thing too is when you have a character like Groot on your team, you have the team combo bonuses, which I haven't really gone deep into yet. I was going to talk about it towards the end of my character spiel. But yeah, if Groot and Rocket are on the same team, Rocket can, round his shoulder, and they both get damage reduction, which is, on paper sounds really good. Though it depends on which characters are fighting against you. You might not, you might not be able to take full advantage of the damage reduction. So I don't know, maybe they need to change that, but I'm not sure. Hela is also busted. She's in the busted tier with Punisher. Like, she's top 3 in my opinion, and I feel like if you're really good at headshots, you're gonna just destroy everyone with this character. I think she was one of the strongest. I think she needs, what does she need? I think she just needs a bit damage reduction on just her standard attacks, mostly headshots. But yeah, she's really lethal. And then her ult is she kind of goes in the air and it goes into first person, and she just throws down these other projectiles. So she's out of the way of like all the melee characters, and only ones that you can shoot her up there. I think you can kill her while she's doing her ult, but I haven't seen anyone successfully do it. But I've definitely fired against one doing that, and I saw her health go down. But I think it takes a bit more to take her down like that. But she was definitely one of the strongest in the alpha for sure. Black Panther, where do I begin? So he was one of the first character. Actually, he was the first character I tried out. As soon as I saw him, I was like, "Oh, let me get to T'Challa Black Panther. Let's get it." So his game plan is he's supposed to kind of be like, he's supposed to be like a hunter, like, you know how Black Panther is supposed to be. He's supposed to throw these magical spears. They're kind of purplish for like Wakandan tech. And I know he's throwing spears. I know you're listening or watching, and you're about to go to the comments and be like, "What are they doing?" Listen, Wakandans, they do throw spears as part of their ways of attacking. The Dora Milaje all use spears or pole arms. Relax. But anyway, Black Panther, he needs a lot of work done. What his game plan is you're supposed to throw the spears, which he gets 2 spears, and then after that it's like I think a 2-second cooldown, and he'll get 1 charge back. So I believe it's 4 or 5 seconds to get both of his spears back. And when you do that and you successfully hit the enemy, you get this icon over their head, which is a vibranium mark. And what you're supposed to do with that is you're supposed to do his attacks where he'll like leap forward and slash really fast and get kills, or he has another move where he kind of does like a forward spinning Tatsumaki type spinning kick move, and then will like swipe at enemies as well. The marks are supposed to allow him to do kind of health steal, in addition to reducing cooldown on some of those 2 abilities. Now on paper that sounds fantastic, right? Well, I think he needs 6 things done to have really 5 things, but I'm gonna count as 6. So 1, I think he needs a movement speed buff. Like, his speed is about average with everyone else's, but there are some characters that do just by default walk faster, like Mantis, Rocket, Storm when she has the wind element. And I think his average walking speed needs to be a bit quicker, and I think they should also give him noise reduction when walking, because a lot of characters, when especially when we're in headphones, when they're walking around, like if they're above you or about outside a wall, you'll hear their footsteps. So for characters like Hela and Scarlet Witch, who are heels, you'll hear you will hear words are getting tongue-tied. You will hear them stepping, and some other characters you'll hear them stomping. So yeah, I think they should reduce it a bit more so we can actually sneak up and get in more successfully. Again, similar to Hulk as another melee-based character, he just needs a damage buff overall on his normal attacks. Like, I feel like even when they're marked with the vibranium mark, it's either not high enough damage or the swipes aren't fast enough. I think they should buff the damage overall though. I think that would be a big help. They should reduce the cooldown on his left shift and his E. The left shift is the move where he leaps forward and slashes quick. That's really going to be the move you either use to clean up and get a kill when you see their health is low enough, or if you're just trying to run through and just slash as many enemies as possible. But in the closed alpha, the cooldown was 12 seconds for the left shift move. I think that's a bit too long. I think it should be maybe like 9 seconds or so, 8-9 seconds, so you can keep yourself going and keep your momentum as far as like attacking and getting out there and things like that. And I think the same with his E, the spin move I mentioned. I think that was his E. I can't remember the exact cooldown for that, but I think reduced it by at least 2 seconds as well. So he can climb up walls. Like other characters, you can climb up walls, and when he does climb up and reach the top, he'll have a little more horizontal momentum, and you can press the jump again, and he'll get a double jump, and it's actually pretty decent. I do like it. But one thing that was odd, I personally think it's an odd decision, but he has a 3-second cooldown to climb up the walls, and I think it's kind of unnecessary because I mean, Spider-Man, of course, he's Spider-Man, but you know, like Rocket can climb up walls. There's a number of other characters that can do that without a cooldown. I don't know if they're thinking that players are gonna get too good with him to where just movement will go crazy if there was no cooldown. But I do think they should remove it, like, overall, so we can just keep moving around the map better. And finally, his ultimate move. What the ultimate move does is he summons like this Bast, purple panther hologram thing. It's kind of large, and you know, Black Panther will ride on the back of it, and you're supposed to left click and aim it, and it's supposed to leap forward and kind of phase through it and mark and do damage to a bunch of enemies in like a line. But the animation is, I feel like it's just not finished, or it needs a bit more polish. It's kind of a rough animation. Kind of hard to describe, but I feel like they just need to polish it. But I think that comes down to more so getting the game, you know, polished and cleaned up versus bouncing. But overall, those are the changes I think Black Panther should get to be an asset on any team without having to, you know, like put in all the effort in the world to get like 3 good kills. So back to our vanguards with Groot. Groot is fantastic. He can put down walls. He's that character. He can put down walls. He attacks with like shooting his arms forward in a sense and kind of punching that way. But he's a really good tank. He can put down 2 walls. He can put down a wider wall to cover up an entire area, you know, straight up. And then he has a second wall that's about smaller than that can cover like just a walkway. And he can put up 2 of those. And those walls, if they sit out over time, they will kind of have an evolving state. I believe the wider wall will just become more durable, and then the other 2 smaller walls they can bring up, they'll have these barbs or these other ways that if anyone tries to damage it, they'll damage themselves. So he's an interesting like wall maker. That's just what I'm gonna call him, a wall maker, a tank character. And like I mentioned before with Rocky, when they're both on the team, they can ride Rocky around his shoulder and they get damage reduction. But overall, I think Groot's pretty great, though maybe they should reduce the health on his walls a bit, because they can take a bit of time to break down, depending on which character you're using. So Magic is one of the few really, like, I think it was a cool, surprising, inspired pick. So shout out to someone on that team that, you know, thought of this character and decided to put her in the game. For those who don't know, Magic is a mutant. She's the younger sister of Colossus and the X-Men, you know, the dude that can turn his whole body metal. But what her deal is she can create these limbo portals. They're like really short. Well, in this game, she uses them to kind of phase between 2 portals in short range. And she's all about like kind of mixing up her sword attack. She uses like a kind of a great sword called the Soul Sword. And she does kind of slower, gradual swiping moves. Yeah, sorry, I was a blank there. But yeah, that's what she does. And she has a certain flow to her. She's more of a slower paced melee character, but once you kind of get the rhythm of how she operates and what some of her combos are for a move, I think she can be pretty good. And I've played against a number of good Magics during my time of the closed alpha. But I do think, along with the other melee characters, I think they should buff her damage a little bit, her melee damage. She can charge her sword, like she raises over her shoulder, and when she swipes forward, she'll shoot like a projectile and damage folks, and she can dash forward and do like an uppercut sword swipe move. So she does have the sauce. She does have the sauce. Oh, and her ultimate, it's kind of like an install. She turns into her Dark Child form, which she has a demonic side to her of like the abilities she uses, and basically just makes all her moves stronger. Some sword attacks will like hit multiple times. She can limbo quicker. It'll jump through her limbo portals quicker. So she's overall really dope. I want to mess with her more later on when the full game is out, but I don't know if I'll make her like a main character. But she's really cool. She has a team combo with Black Panther, of all people. But basically what she can do, she can create a dedicated portal just for Black Panther to travel forward faster in the map. That's it. I can't, it's not as strong as like Doctor Strange's dedicated portal that he can create of anywhere on the map, but it's a decent bonus, I would say. Luna Snow. Luna Snow is another support character. I think she's the last one on this list here. Yes, she's the last one. She was the last one in this. So I had to look her up. Luna Snow she's a character that was made in another Marvel game. I believe it's Marvel Future Fight. I think it was a mobile game. In the comments, please fact check me if you know, or if you're more familiar with that. But yeah, so she's, as her name suggests, she's more ice-based powers. I don't believe she's a mutant or anything like that. She just has the ability to shoot shards of ice and you know, manipulate it and things like that. And she's also a K-pop star in the universe. So shout out to the K-pop community and all those groups. But yeah, she's solid. She's not my favorite character, but she's about as straightforward to use as Mantis, where when you fire her shards, they're not the projectiles. I think she's kind of hit scan. I think she's kind of like a hit scan character in a sense, but yeah, she's really good at support as far as like healing and damaging. She can put like this snowflake icon on top of enemies or not enemies, I'm sorry, on top of allies, where when she's healing one person, that person will also get healing. So it's good passive healing for that too. I'd say it's good for characters that are going to be in the air a lot, or a tank, or a character or a person, you know, that might try and jump forward a lot, try and harass the other team. And her ultimate is where she basically puts on the show, and she makes like this big circle around her where anyone in the zone will get just constant healing regeneration. But you can toggle it with a damage up one where it turns purple instead of blue, and everyone in there will do that. And she also has health regen. She can get killed while she's doing it, but she has constant health regen. So while you're firing, you know, there's a Punisher and you're just shooting at her, her health is going down, but it's going to keep going up as you're shooting her. So she's really good as well. All the supports are great, which I'm glad about, because a lot of people don't really like to choose support sometimes because they just want to be all in the action, which I understand, but support is very important. They have a role in these games. But yeah, she's great. I don't think she really needs anything else, personally. So Iron Man. Couldn't have a Marvel type game without our man Tony Stark, Iron Man, in the mix. So he, I believe, is supposed to be kind of like Pharah from Overwatch, where he's flying a lot and shoots a lot of like explosive moves. He can do his unibeam. It has a cooldown, so you can't just fire it at all times. And he can also fire these micro missiles. The micro missiles can either be fired when he's just floating normally, or if you hit his left shift, that's where he kind of goes into his flight mode, and you know, you can move around the map a bit more. The only thing I would really say I think Iron Man should get, I think when he uses left shift to fly more, I think that should be faster, like considerably faster, so he can get better at, you know, repositioning in the map overall. And then his ultimate, one of the strongest ultimates in the game, is he shoots this big projectile that has a huge area of effect damage, and it just kind of nukes people in the area. So you just kind of have to be aware of where the Iron Man is. So when he does yell and you know firing his ultimate move, find cover or pull up a shield if you're like a tank character. Yeah, so I think they should tone down the ult a bit, maybe tone down the damage, and then similar to Black Panther's ultimate move, the animation is choppy. I think it should be polished. But yeah, I'm sure again they'll get to that. Spider-Man, Spidey, let's go. So Spider-Man, I gotta give a shout out to the developer team for this. Spider-Man is arguably the most popular comic book character in the world right now. Like, arguably. I mean, it'll flip-flop with like Batman depending on, you know, what's out, but I think at this point it's definitely Spider-Man, right? Spider-Man he's an attacker, he's a duelist, but I think he's the most high skill ceiling character in this build thus far. And I'm not sure how they'll have any more characters for the full game, but yeah, they gave him all the stuff. So basically, yeah, he's kind of like Air Genji from Overwatch, where you're supposed to use his web swing and just get to the mid of the map immediately. And I don't think you can like swing on air like in the really old Spider-Man games on like PlayStation and GameCube based off the movies. You can't do that. But it's interesting. Like once you swing, he gets a burst of speed and he can like use some of the momentum and fling himself in the air. So it's not as, I wouldn't say it's exactly 1-to-1 to like the Insomniac Spider-Man games. But I would say it's definitely noticeably better than like Marvel's Avengers and games like that. But also he's really good. Yeah, so his standard attacks are, you know, punches. He can shoot his webbing at enemies. And when you do that, he shoots a web, he calls it a spider tracer. You shoot spider tracers at the enemy and you'll see a web icon over their head when they do that, even after they break out of the web. And what you can do is you can web zip to the enemies. You can web zip to them so you can kind of move quicker and close the gap. And he also has a dedicated uppercut move. So the sacred combo is like shoot his webs, attach a spider tracer, web zip over there, uppercut, and then do like a couple of his regular attack moves, and you can get a kill as long as you stay on them. But yeah, really good Spider-Mans are gonna be a menace in this game, especially for the high, like the really competitive esports teams. Bruh, they're gonna go crazy. Cause like once you kind of get a handle on all his mobility, and of course you can crawl walls and run up them as well, or up around them. And once you kind of understand how all this stuff operates, he's super strong. I initially thought that he needed more damage on his attacks, but as the alpha went on, and I saw more Spider-Mans playing, or whether on my team or on the other team, I think he's pretty solid. The only thing I would say I think they should adjust is how long the spider traces are on enemies. They kind of go away quick. Like I feel like they go away within like 2-3 seconds. It's really quick. Maybe keep it on there for 4 seconds. Maybe. But yeah. But overall, Spider-Man's dope. It's Peter Parker Spider-Man, by the way. We don't have Miles Morales or anyone like that yet, hopefully. Okay, so we're getting towards the last few characters. Magneto. He's a tank. He's kind of interesting. You'd think he'd be like a floaty character, like Iron Man or something like that, like all the time floating. His movement is he is floating by default, kind of like Storm. So when you start a match, he's floating but near the ground. He can use an ability to fly more in the air. Well, actually, no, let me rephrase that. He doesn't have a dedicated move to fly more in the air, but when you're jumping from a high place, you can hold space and descend slowly. But yeah, he's interesting. I think he's one of those characters that is good, but when you have the right character on the team, like Scarlet Witch for the team combo, he just becomes much better. So he's all about, he keeps these metal rings behind him, floating behind his head, and he shoots those as projectiles. What he's about though is he can pull up a shield and he can catch other projectiles and stuff from it. But yeah, he's basically about shooting shards of metal at enemies, and then his right click is he shoots a larger ball of metal and fires it there. So if you're familiar with the character Sigma from Overwatch, he plays very similar to that. So I think he'll be right at home. Even his ult is similar to Sigma, where he'll conjure up a lot of metal in one ball and he'll fire it down. They can do a lot of damage if you aim it correctly. But yeah, he's a tank. He's kind of good for like holding down the area and dishing out damage. So he's a bit more dynamic than like Doctor Strange, as far as like he's more like putting up the wall 24/7 and then getting a couple shots out and then putting up the wall again. You're gonna be scrapping with Magneto a bit more. But like I said previously, when Scarlet Witch is on the team, she powers him up with some of his chaos with her chaos magic, and he gets a new ability. He gets a sword, and this sword, he can use it with, I think, C. Well, you activate it with that, and then his left click becomes partly that move. Actually, let me rephrase that. He still can shoot regular metal from as his regular attack, but his C on the keyboard is a sword, and when he swipes it through the air, it sends like beam projectiles forward, kind of like how like Zero from Mega Man does with his Z Saber. And it does a lot of damage, and they're pretty large projectiles. So he's just automatically a better character with Scarlet Witch in the team. So I feel like if you're interested in tank characters and someone loves Scarlet Witch, go Magneto. He's great with that. And speaking of Scarlet Witch is next. So I would say she's a noob killer character. Like, for people that just jump in the game, she's kind of like Moira from Overwatch, where her attack, you don't really need to aim like that. She kind of saps energy from people. Like, you don't fire projectiles, or she's not hit scan nor melee. But yeah, as long as you're within range, she'll constantly absorb their energy and, kill them. She can also float and descend, and also turn invisible and float quicker, kind of like Magneto can. But her ult is where everyone will know when she yells pure chaos, and all these chaos orbs appear around her, and then she does like a big like whoosh, like explosion. Now, at first, I thought that move was busted because I didn't know the range. It felt like how D.Va in Overwatch, when she does her nerf this and she sends her mech out and it kind of explodes. It felt like that, but instead of it's just her doing it, and she can move around a little bit when she's prepping it. But honestly, once you understand how to combat it, it's not really a threat. You can either go duck for cover, you can shoot her, you can stun her, you can web her up with Spider-Man. You can do a lot of stuff and just kind of delete her while she's starting that ult. So I don't know if they're gonna change anything about her. I don't think they should. She's a good like beginner person, and I'm sure because of like shows like WandaVision on Disney Plus, she's like super popular now in like the wider Marvel fan base. So I think she's gonna get a lot of play just regardless, but just keep that in mind for anyone else. She's not busted, she's good, but she's easy to be countered. I'll say that. Penny Parker. So for all of us that probably get introduced to this character in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, she is a character from an alternate universe where she inherits this mech called Spider, and she inherited from her dad that passed away in her universe. But basically, she has to get bit by a spider to be able to telepathically communicate with the mech, so they're in sync. But she was one of my favorite characters in this game. I gotta be upfront. I didn't expect to like her like this much. So, and at first glance, you think she'll be the D.Va character. No, she's not at all. She's more of a trapper area control tank at a longer range. So she can shoot out. So she has a lot of interesting abilities. So even though she's a tank and she moves kind of slow, she can run up walls kind of slowly, but she can run up walls. So that's cool. She can shoot electro webs either at an enemy on zip and web them up, kind of like how Spider-Man can. Although I think hers doesn't last long at all. I think it lasts maybe a second. I kind of wish they buffed that, but I see why they wouldn't. But what she can also do is she can like shoot an electro web at any wall or ceiling and zip herself to it, and she remains attached to it. Like there's like a lasso around the waist of her mech, and if you kind of walk around while still attached to it, if you go just far enough, you'll have like a rubber band effect where she'll like fling herself back towards the electro web point that she set there, which is pretty cool. She can also shoot these mines, which that was part of my game plan all the time playing here. She can shoot these mines from distance, and anyone that gets in the vicinity, they take damage. I think she has she can use up to 4 at a time, but I don't think there's a hard cap of how many you can put out on the map. I think I put out well over a dozen, maybe 2 dozen in like a part of a map. And when she does her ultimate, she just she gets these like iron spider appendages on the back of her mech, and she can do stronger melee attacks and knocks enemies back, and she just kind of runs forward constantly. but you can also spit out a bunch of those mines. Just constantly spit them out. So it's pretty cheesy, but it works, and I'm gonna keep doing it as long as I play the game. But yeah, she's really fun. One of her other things she has is she can put down this one stationary device that will constantly spit out either electro webs for enemies to kind of get slowed down on, or mines. So it's good for once you cap like a zone, put that out near where you think the enemy is going to appear, and yeah, you can shoot your other mines in other places too, and just kind of sit back and fire your main weapon, which is pretty slow. It's a pretty slow projectile. I feel like they should maybe speed up the fire rate a little bit, because even though I'm really big on her main flaw is like once somebody gets in on her, it's kind of over. She doesn't have really good like close quarters abilities. So keep that in mind. Just stay back and make sure they don't close in on you, and you're good. Namor is another attacker. I think he's pretty underrated. I think he went under the radar. I saw a few people play him well, and I like playing him a few times too. But basically what his game plan is, he throws down these little octopus enemies, and they kind of shoot projectiles over time, and you throw your trident at enemies. And you can, his right click is he does like a spin move his trident, and he throws it at an enemy, and I believe what it does is it'll make his little octopus turret things shoot at whatever you hit, or whoever you hit with that version of the trident move. He's pretty straightforward though. He doesn't really have a lot of flair. He doesn't really have like a lot of flair with his attacks, honestly. So I could see him not being popular off that. He just, you know, if someone's just spectating, you're not gonna be like, oh man, he's super cool. He's just more like, he's more of a fundamental character. He also has a combo move of Luna Snow, which honestly I think he should just have by default. Maybe they should change this. But when Luna Snow and Namor are on the same team, he gets a second type of the octopus turret, and basically it's an ice one because Luna Snow is ice. And you know, so you can put down 3 turrets instead of just 2, and one of them can be ice. And you know, it's ice. It'll freeze them or slow them down. It works really well. His ult is he'll blow in this like conch shell horn and summon like this big old fish to leap out, and it'll just splash and crash into an area. It's good for getting quick kills. I've definitely gotten caught off guard by it, and I've definitely caught others off guard with it. So overall, his other move he can do too, he can leap up in the air and encase himself in like water and like a spear. Now this is kind of a weird move because I feel like when they designed it, they're looking at Mei from Overwatch, the character that can encase herself in ice. But the thing is with that character in Overwatch, I know I keep making parallels, but to help you guys understand who's watching and listening, she could heal herself in that ice. Namor in the water can't heal himself, so it's really just delaying the inevitable. But what I think what they're trying to have you do when you do that is, I think you're supposed to have your octopus turrets out, and then if someone tries to come and attack you, you press left shift, and you go into that water spear, and you just sit there for a few seconds. And I think the turret, maybe the enemy is like distracted and wants to kind of attack you. If they don't try and attack your octopus turrets, then they'll attack them. I think that's what they're trying to go for with that move, but I think he should have a form of self-healing when he encases himself in water. Is it not original? Yes. But will it be better? Also yes. So yes, name more. So last but not least, Star-Lord. Star-Lord is another broken character. He's among the top 3 crew of best between the Punisher, Hela, and him. Honestly, depending on who's playing him and how the team is, he could be top 1, but I think it really just depends. He's really quick. He's pretty much like Tracer. He has both of his pistols. He fires them. After a while, he'll auto reload, and you can keep firing. He can fly around because he has the jet boots and whatnot in the jetpack, and his E, one of his regular abilities, is essentially like Reaper's ultimate in Overwatch, where he does the die and shoots in circles around him and like can flank people. He can do that with the move. It's just a move. It's probably one of the coolest looking moves in the game though, where he kind of goes back and forth in this comic book action like type of animation. It looks really cool. Like I can tell they put in a lot of work on that character as far as like his animations. And his ultimate, he basically becomes like Soldier 76, and his fire rate and damage goes through the roof, and if there's any enemies near, you will auto target them and just kill them, and he can still fly. So character's busted. I think he needs damage reduction. Or not damage reduction, but I think his damage output needs to be reduced, period. Not nerf, not like in the ground nerf, but maybe how long it takes to kill enemies. But yeah, that's the whole roster in the closed alpha. And yeah, most of them I think are in a good place. It's really the melee characters that's not Spider-Man that can use a little more love. Black Panther needs the most love, I think. And then maybe some other characters in their team combos can be adjusted. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about the team combos at the end here of this part. So I did mention some of them. The other ones I didn't mention, Hulk has a team combo with both Iron Man and Doctor Strange, where basically it'll be like he gives his gamma radiation to Iron Man, and his regular moves are just powered up more. And same with Doctor Strange, his regular moves are powered up more when you have Hulk on your team. And then is there anyone? Oh, Loki and Hela have a combo that's kind of broken too. If Hela gets a kill and Loki dies, and he's like in that cooldown phase where before he gets respawned, if Hela gets a kill, Loki immediately gets resurrected. Now if Loki is alive and Hela gets a kill, he gets like a crow that floats around him that can kind of negate one attack or something like that. But overall it's just really strong. I believe those are the only other two combos for this game right now. Everyone else either doesn't have one, or maybe they will have one later, but we just don't know. But yeah, so so I did ask the question on my YouTube about this video I was gonna make, if anyone had any questions that they wanted to ask. So I got a couple. I wanted to go through them. The first one is by Thwip Media 616. Shout out to them. They've been pretty active on a lot of the gameplay videos. They ask, who are 5 characters you'd like to see introduced later on? My personal 5 would be Human Torch, Invisible Woman, Thor, and Wolverine. Now, Thwip Media 616, that's 4, not 5. I'm sure you meant to type a 5th, but I would say when you're watching this, let me know what your 5th is, because I'm kind of curious, because those are all good picks, of course. I do think all the Fantastic Four is going to get in some fashion, but we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, my 5 that I would like to see in the game, I had to think about this because this was a good question. I'd like to see Nightcrawler as a duelist, because he's like my favorite, original X-Men mutant. Love teleportation powers like that. I feel like he could be kind of like a quicker version of Magic, where he'll do his teleporting, his bamfing for my comic book folks, and he'll be swashbuckling with his swords. He'll have a third sword for his tail too. I think he'll be cool for that. And I just want to teleport everywhere and just do quick attacks and kill. Moon Knight as a duelist would be dope. Moon Knight is a complicated character, but he has really cool moves. He can be good as like a brawler. He can throw some of his moon crescent projectiles, and I think his ult can be something like a moon appears or something. He just gets a damage buff overall, just the power of Khonshu. And Blue Marvel could be a Vanguard, I think. Now I think that'd be cool as another like deeper cut, because he hasn't really been introduced in the MCU by any fashion, so no one mainstream probably knows who he is. But that's Adam Brashear, I believe is how you say his name. He's a character that can also fly. He's a really intelligent dude. He's a black man, so of course I gotta do that. But he has antimatter abilities. So I feel like what he could do is he could kind of use his antimatter to either provide defensive buffs to teammates, And also dish out a mixture of melee and ranged attacks and can kind of float at times. Well, he can fly straight up, but maybe they regulate him to just like a Magneto float instead of like a full Iron Man float. Misty Knight, I think as a strategist would be cool because she's another grounded character, like the Punisher in a sense, grounded character from New York. She has like a prosthetic metal arm due to an accident that occurred, but she's, you know, she's more like she's like more of an officer of FBI type person. She's worked with Shield before, I believe. She will be good, I feel like, as a way to kind of navigate through and assist your teammates on either damage buffs. It's just an idea I've had. I just want to see Misty Knight in the game. Do it, Netties, do it. And then final character, Daisy Johnson, aka Quake, as a strategist. I think with this, one thing I didn't really mention earlier, with the maps, they all have destructible environment capabilities, which is really cool. And Quake is an Inhuman. I know Inhumans aren't really popular at all, but she's probably the most cool Inhuman, if not one of the coolest. But basically she has abilities where she can, you know, create like a seismic rays or projectile moves to cause things to vibrate. She can create little force fields to protect other people. So I feel like she'd be another cool like hybrid attacker support, like how Rocket is, as far as more melee based though, not just ranged. And maybe she can use like some of her force field stuff to heal your teammates as, you know, they go along. I think that'd be cool. Like you can put them in a shield, and they kind of have healing over time, and they can also absorb some attacks, but they have to really balance that, I think. And I'm not a balancing type person, but these are just ideas I've had just thinking about it. And the second question from Andrew Gornieri 2979, what up, homie? He asked, any balance recs like fixing Iron Man's ult, LOL. So I did mention that earlier in the video when I did my whole spiel on the characters, but yes, I do agree with you. That does need to be nerfed still to the needs to be nerfed fairly in damage. But I guess characters again that I would like to see first get touched. Yeah, I think Iron Man's ult needs to be touched. Hela needs to be touched in some aspect of bringing her down a bit. And then just buff Black Panther tremendously. Everything I said much earlier. I think they need to do that. But those are the three main balance recommendations I would say. So far my final thoughts on everything. I'm really excited about the game. I'm still pretty surprised I was able to get a code for the alpha without even being a part of the content creator program. So thank you again for that. I will have access to the closed beta whenever that is announced. So keep your eyes on the channel here. I'll probably put a video out indicating when that's gonna happen. But yeah, closed beta. I'll definitely do more content on it there. More videos, more streams. You know, maybe talk about what's different. Well, hopefully, and make some adjustments by then. And yeah, I would like to make Marvel Rivals a part of like my main content on here on YouTube. So everyone that, you know, watch all the videos, who subscribed and liked videos, commented, I greatly appreciate it. Definitely gonna keep going with it more. The game is looking awesome. I'm gonna try and put as many of my friends on it as well when I'm able to. Unfortunately, with the closed alpha, everyone only got one extra code, so we weren't able to really like invite everybody in. But yeah, overall, I'm pretty positive on the game as a whole. I think they just need to really get the characters balanced more properly, and I think we have a winner. But yeah, otherwise, thank you all again for watching the video. Like, comment, subscribe for more Marvel Rivals content as we go on through the year 2024 and even to 2025, when I think the game is going to fully launch for everybody. But yeah, it has a lot of potential, and I'm eager to, you know, play more and to share more of it with you all. So yeah, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. You'll see here I'll have a playlist of all 19 characters I played in the closed alpha, if you're interested in more gameplay. And yeah, stick around and stay tuned. Peace out.